Alrighty. Hey everybody, I think we are live. Uh, let's see, Crafty Crafter, what San said. Okay, I don't know what San said. Uh, so, if you could tell me what she said. Are you still in here, Crafty Crafter? I wonder. I hope you're feeling better. Um, and today, which will, I'll give everybody a minute to get in here and that way we can get everything started. Hey, Darlene. I hope everybody's doing well on this Wednesday. It's Wednesday evening for me. It's about 7 o'clock. So hopefully this is a good time for everybody. It seems like it worked well last week, and it works well with our traveling, because if we're moving, then it gives us time to get settled into a place, and usually we're moving during the day, so having it right in the middle of the day like I had it was not working out too well sometimes. Let's see. So today's topic is going to be all about fear, how to get over fear, especially as it relates to weight loss with intermittent fasting. I know I had to overcome a lot of fear, so I thought that'd be an interesting topic. And of course, we'll do the Q&A. I'll try to answer all the questions that people have. So Crafty, can you tell me, or Enid, is it okay if I call you Enid on here? What did San say? I hope San comes in here. She's, let's see. Hey, Agnes. Oh, you're from Maui. Oh, I love that. Or you're in Maui, at least. I don't know if you're from Maui, but, okay, great. Okay, so I'll call you Enid. I'm so used to calling you Crafty Crafter, though. I so want to go to Hawaii. We want to hit all 50 states on this adventure. I'm coming to you live from my Class C RV bedroom. Because when it's nighttime outside, I can't really be in my car. It doesn't really work. And I really can't be outside, so I have to be in here. Anyway, let's see what time it is. I always like to give everybody a chance to get in here, because if I start answering questions and stuff like that, people are like, wait, you said you weren't going to start until this certain time. So your mom's been to Hawaii, so I guess that means you have not, Enid. Yeah, the thing about it is so expensive to get over there, right? Like, I think we've looked at, plane tickets just on a whim. It's like, oh man, it is like really expensive. Or from my recollection, it was like, okay, that's not really doable. I know several of you are already in the Facebook group, but if you would like to be a part of the Facebook group, my husband will put that link in the chat. He's going to be moderating the chat. And so if you see a thing pop up that says, that 6 Miles to Supper said something, that's actually my husband, JR, and he always does a good job moderating and providing links and stuff like that. So, oh, yeah, and it's expensive once you're there. I have heard the cost of living is ridiculous. One of my favorite shows is Dog the Bounty Hunter. And it's so interesting to me to see that dichotomy. You have like such a wealthy area, and then there's like this very, very poor area too. It's like, wow, it's interesting to me. In my mind, I always think of Hawaii as just being, rich people everywhere, but they have like big drug problems and stuff too in certain areas. Every state has its own problems, I know, but yeah, it's like, it takes planning. Yeah, that's the truth. Let's see. Oh, so you're from the Pacific Northwest. Yeah. Yeah, and so right now we're in Idaho. It is gorgeous here. I love it here. Oh my goodness. It is so beautiful. We had a potato farmer is staying in this campground, and we didn't even know he was a potato farmer, but he like randomly asked us today as we were walking our 6 miles, me and my husband. He was like, hey, do y'all like potatoes? We're like, I love potatoes. And so he brought us, like, he was going to his farm, his potato farm, where he has lots of potatoes apparently, and they're harvesting right now. And he brought us a big 5-gallon bucket of potatoes. It was awesome. Okay, let's see. Oh, layover in Hawaii. How lucky is that? And Brazil. I would love to go to Brazil too, but I've heard that too. I think I read that in the 4 Hour Work Week, that it was like there is that, like, there are some areas that are sketchy, and then And then there's some very beautiful stuff too. So, oh, you were just in Portland. Let's see, you lived in Moscow. Okay, so I don't know where that is in, I'm assuming you mean Moscow, Idaho. So, so yeah, I have, right now I'm in American Falls, which is south of, I'm horrible with geography, especially Idaho geography. It's like below Pocatello. So, yeah, Jim, Idaho is just blowing me away. It's like one of those states I had just never heard, I mean, never really heard anything about it except for the potatoes. Never really thought of it being, a beautiful place. And man, it is gorgeous. The mountains are so dramatic and the weather's been beautiful. Beautiful sunsets. Okay, well, I think it's time to start. So, 7 o'clock. So let's start this. So, let's see. So, I wanted to talk about, well, first of all, I wanted to give a quick update on Jezza because I just got an email about it. And so they did the test, the water test, which, to test a little test drill for water. That looked positive. So they started digging. They dug for 100 feet and did not find water. So they're going to have to try to find another spot to dig. So please, if you're the praying type, please pray that they can find water. It's such a frustrating process. I remember, like, we had a farm at one time and we had to dig a well. The first place we dug, could not find water, had to find another spot. We did find water, and I'm very, very hopeful that they will too. So please, if you're the praying type, please pray. Okay. So, and also, Jim's in here, and he has agreed to be interviewed, and I'm so excited to interview him. That will be coming out soon. We're going to do the interview itself on Saturday, but then we've got to, edit it and upload and all that stuff. But so be on the lookout for that. And actually, a lot of people have stepped forward, want to be on, and want to share their stories. So I'm so excited. If you are one of those people, please email me, Kayla at 6milestosupper.com. It's a painless interview. It's it's just a Skype call, a Skype video call. I record the whole thing. All you need is your phone, and we can do the interview. So I really want to show people all the different ways people have lost weight. There's no one right way to do it. So and crafty that that's what I'm hoping too, that maybe that first spot was just not the right spot. This next spot that they try is going to be a really, really good source. That's my hope and prayer. So all right, so, oh, hey, Christina. I was just telling everybody I'm still in Idaho. There's like a storm to the southwest, I think, like a tropical storm, so we're kind of waiting it out. I think we're going to be heading southwards, we think, on Monday, so probably into Utah. So I'll keep you updated on that. So, so fear, right? Fear is one of those things. I had a lot of fear when I first started losing weight. Before I even lost weight, I was just afraid of a lot. Like, for example, like, what if I fail? What if I succeed? Like, what if, what if everybody's watching me? I always felt like everybody's like focused on me. Like I was, like it's called spotlight syndrome. You think everybody's focused on you, thinking about you. Nobody's thinking about you. Like they've got their own lives. But I was so worried, like, about losing it fast enough. Like once I started, I had this incredible pressure on myself to try to lose it really, really fast. Like I thought that if I didn't lose it fast, it was like everybody's going to think, oh, what a failure, or man, you just can't get it off, or something like that. And I just had a fear of failure. I hated failure. I'm getting better at that now. But so how to deal with all this? Because like I made a list of all the things I was afraid of. I was afraid that if I lost weight, I might lose some of my friends. I also thought that if I lost weight, I might have a ton of excess loose skin, and I would actually feel worse about my body after losing the weight than I did before losing the weight. Let's see, I was afraid, what if my marriage got affected negatively? Because like, what if I lost the weight and turned into like a horrible flirt or something like that? What else? Like, I was afraid of just becoming a different person. Like, what if I lose the weight and I become, really mean and shallow, or like just I'm just not a nice person anymore or something. I had a fear of food. I had a, like I can't be trusted around food. I had a fear of fasting, especially of intermittent fasting. I was afraid it was gonna kill my metabolism, that it would mess up my hormones as a woman. There was all this fear. What else? And then also the fear of, I put forth all this effort and nothing really changes in my life. So like there's a lot of fear that can happen around a weight loss journey, I think. But I have learned how to deal with fear. I've got some strategies that I'm going to share with you, because I think it's important. I especially thought of this when yesterday we were on our walk, and there was this little spider on the road, and I'm pretty scared of spiders, but I'm also scared of moths, and there are a lot of these little fears that I have, but I'm trying to actively get over them. And one thing I've started to do is to try to take pictures of things like really close, like macro photography. I don't have a macro lens or anything, but like with my phone I get as close to it as I can. And like with the spider, I took this really close-up photo, as close as I could get to it, and he's tiny. I mean, he's tiny. But when I took that photo, it like blows it up, right? So I can see him. And he's actually this cute little guy. His little eyes are cute, and it just made me think, like when you really get close in on your fear, sometimes you realize like, oh, there's really not as much to be afraid of. So just facing the fear is one thing. Oh, Christina, so you can relate to this. Yeah, well, good. So facing my fear, that's one thing. Is just to like one thing that was super scary to me in the beginning, because in 2014, that's when the Facebook photo. Okay, yeah, the Facebook photo that got posted, multiple photos of me got posted, that I was just in shock that that's what I really looked like, and that kind of thing. At that point, I knew that I needed to lose weight, but I was terrified to get on scale. So I didn't get on the scale for another whole year. I was just, I had it in my head that maybe I can just lose the weight with never getting on the scale. And so that's what I tried. I tried for a whole year. I took photos of myself every single week from every single angle, and that was good. It was a good like reality check. I wasn't as shocked when I saw myself in pictures anymore. But when I finally got on the scale in February of 2015, that was a huge turning point. And it took facing my fear. Like, I was so nervous. I was like, shaking and just almost sick to my stomach, because I didn't want to get on the scale. I didn't want to see that number. And guess what? Like, when I got on the scale, I thought I was going to see 185, and it was 222. So it was worse than what I had imagined even. But facing that fear was amazing, because then it was like, oh, well, now I know exactly where I'm at. And then that's really when I started to make progress to getting the weight off. It really did take that facing my fear and then moving on from it. So that's one thing, if you can learn how to face it in some way. Another thing, and because sometimes that doesn't really work, like it's like, how do you face the fear of losing weight, right? But taking action in some form or way. So action cures fear. That's one of my favorite phrases that I tell myself a lot to get over different things that I might be nervous about. If you just take some sort of action, like I was always stressed about my weight. And when I really started taking action against it, so like in 2014, I wasn't really taking I was doing a lot of stuff, but I wasn't really I was motivated, but I wasn't really going after it. I wasn't weighing. I wasn't, really trying to change much. In 2015, I started taking action, and that felt good. Like, it felt good to get out there and do stuff. I was like powerlifting. I was intermittent fasting, which was good. But then I had fear around intermittent fasting that I had to get over too. So Crafty, you said, go hold a tarantula, and your arachnophobia vanished. Oh, and you're afraid of mice. Mice don't freak me out at all. But, Yeah, yeah. I mean, I can see how mice can be scary. Um, but yeah, I have even thought about that, like just seeking that out, seeing if I can go and find, you know, like a tarantula to hold. And I would assume that once you've held something like that, you're not going to really be afraid. I think there's a lot of fear of the unknown, right? Like a lot of times there's a spider there, and I think I could probably touch that, but then I think, well, what if it's really poisonous or something? So I don't, but maybe I should seek out some sort of thing like that because I don't like being afraid. I really hate being afraid of moths and butterflies. I know that's the most, it's just, it's such an irrational fear, and I'm really trying to get over it. But yeah, and see, and sometimes there is a good, healthy fear, right? Like Darlene was talking about, like disease. That's a thing, right? With mice, they can carry disease, and spiders can be poisonous, and snakes can be poisonous or venomous. But so I mean, so there is sometimes there is a good underlying thing about fear, and you got to figure that out too. Like, is this fear? Is there a good reason for it, or is it just kind of an irrational fear? One thing I like to do with fear is called, well, it's got a whole lot of different names, but like negative visualization, that's one term I've heard it called. Fear setting. Basically, it just means you take the worst case scenario. So, like whatever you're afraid of, and you say, okay, what's the worst that could happen with that, right? And then you say, sometimes it helps to say, well, what are the odds that that would really happen, that worst case scenario? And then accept the worst case scenario and then try to just improve upon that. So, for example, like one thing that I was talking about was being afraid of loose skin, right? Being afraid that if my skin would crawl when I'd hear, ooh, yeah, crafty. Yeah, we had rats in our attic one time. That was not a fun experience at all. And it was rats, not little mice. But so so basically, if you take the worst case scenario, like with me, one thing was loose skin. I thought, okay, the worst case scenario there is I get down to my goal weight and I hate the way I look, right? I hate it. And then I just thought to myself, well, I still have options then, right? I could get surgery if I wanted to, like if I wanted some sort of like plastic surgery and change that how I looked, I could do that. I could also gain the weight back if I wanted to. That was another option. As it turns out, I'm fine with the way it looks. I mean, like when I Google what does a body look like after you've had 3 kids or after you've lost 80 pounds, it's like it prepared me for what it was going to look like. And that's another thing, getting some knowledge there, facing your fear, saying, what is this really going to look like? And then, it gave me, once I saw that, and once I kind of face the fears, then it's like it just removes this kind of mental roadblock, and then you don't sabotage yourself as much because it's like, no, I'm confident that I want to go in this direction. So, so let's see, Crafty, your cat won't even catch it. Oh man, that sometimes cats are not very cooperative, are they? So, another thing that helps me too, especially with the weight loss journey, because it can be overwhelming, it can be kind of scary, it can be like, what if I get, part of the way there and I just can't lose anymore, or what if I lose, too quickly or not quickly enough, or, there's all these different things. But one thing that helped me was to go 1 pound at a time. So when I was, I always just focus on just the next pound. Like, okay, when I'm at, right now I'm like at 140, I don't know, it kind of fluctuates between like 137 and 140-ish. So I just say, okay, I'm just trying to get down into like, right now I'm just thinking, okay, I just want to hit the 130s, right? Because that's kind of like the next step. But just don't get too far out there. Like when I had, at that point I had, at 222, I felt like I wanted to at least lose 60 pounds. And that felt really overwhelming. Like, oh my gosh, 60 pounds, that's so much. And you can get so nervous and worried and scared of it. But if you just take it 1 pound at a time, live in day tight compartments, that's a really good book. Let's see, it just left me. How to Stop Worrying and Start Living by Dale Carnegie. Excellent book on fears and worry, like getting rid of worry in your life. Oh, so good. Um, so Darlene, you said a fear that you have is the way I'm trying to lose weight could affect your health negatively. And so that was so my problem in 2015. So I heard about intermittent fasting in 2014, and I thought, oh, that's interesting, right? And I researched it to death, right? And if you research anything to death, it can scare the living daylights out of you. No matter what diet plan it is, you'll find tons of stuff that say, oh, this is the most excellent plan ever, and it's got no risk, basically, and you'll see this other stack of evidence that says, this is horrible, it's going to ruin your life, right? Or it's going to kill you. So one thing I read in 2014 was like this one random article that said, oh, well, you shouldn't, if you're a woman, you should never fast more than 14 hours. And like, it stuck in my head, and I thought, okay, well, I can only do 14-hour fast. Well, in 2015, I had some good success with around that kind of window. But I wanted to, push it out further, because I think with a 14-hour fast, you can get some results, but really it needs to be longer if you really want to have like more results. Like it can get you down to a certain weight, I think. But so I wanted to go further, and so I just kind of had to make peace with the fact, like, I'm just gonna go ahead and try it. And actually, I did read Jason Fung's article about fasting, and I realized, like, he doesn't think 14-hour fast is the limit. That's my understanding, at least. And so I thought, I'll just try it, and just kind of saying to myself, I'm gonna really be careful. I'm gonna monitor, like, how am I feeling? What do I, your body, I feel like, will tell you, like, are you doing the right thing or not? If you're feeling bad, then that's probably a bad sign. So I just started to tell myself, like, I'm just going to take a risk here. I'm going to push it a little bit more and see if I have results. And I did. And I was feeling so good. And, and ultimately I thought, which is worse, right? Staying obese or losing the weight, and kind of taking a little bit of a risk there. Because I think everything is a risk. Like, I think, it really doesn't matter what plan you do, there's going to be a risk. Life is full of risk. So, let's see. Hey! Oh, Enid, somebody noticed your weight loss. Awesome. I wonder, how much have you lost now? Like, how long did it take them? Because people think that everybody can tell, like, a 5-pound difference, and it's just not true. Let's see. Oh, Anna, you said your biggest fear is that you won't be able to keep it off. That was such a fear of mine. It almost... get this kind of thinking. It almost made me not even want to lose weight in the first place, because I was that afraid of it. Because it was like every time I lost weight, I always gained it back, right? I always gained it back plus some. And I thought, what's the point? Like, what's the point of putting yourself through a whole weight loss thing, and then you gotta gain weight? And to me, I was like, oh, that would be so embarrassing to do that yet again. Like, it just seemed like less embarrassing to stay overweight. And so then I guess the thing that got me past that was to think, I'm really not happy where I was not happy being overweight. I was like, it was starting to prevent me from doing things. So I thought, it's worth a shot, right? Like, I can at least try one more time to get it off. And one thing that I changed with this journey compared to every other time I've ever tried to lose weight was I kept asking myself the entire time, will you be able to keep this up for the rest of your life if necessary? And that kept me from doing certain diet plans that were popular at the time, because I knew deep down I'm not going to stick to those plans. So when I was kind of forming my plan, I thought, okay, and that's why I didn't eliminate any foods. Like, I told myself I can eat whatever I want, I can eat however much I want. The only thing that I'm dealing with is a time boundary around the food. And that I could stick with, and I could see, and you never really know, right? Like, you never really 100% know until you actually do it and have done it over a sustained period of time that you can do it. But my best guess was, I feel like that's something I could do. Like, and even the thought of, like, just intermittent fasting for the rest of my life, I thought, I feel like I could. I feel like I could at least do 2 meals a day for the rest of my life. And I was okay with that. So I thought, well, I'll I'll always be thinking about how am I going to maintain this. And that prevented me from, there were times in my journey where I was like super tempted to try keto, for example. I'm fine, like keto is great for some people. It's not great for me because I won't stick to it. But I was like really tempted at one point, like, oh man, I bet I could drop like 10 or 15 pounds really fast if I just do keto in combination with this. But I didn't do it because I knew that maintenance wise, like 5 years down the road, I'm not going to be doing that plan. So that's why I always kept it the same. And then when I went into maintenance mode, I realized, wow, there's a lot of freedom there that I can have and still maintain my weight. So it is a hard thing until you're there, until you're doing it. But that was a major fear of mine, Anna. Yeah, crafty. Yeah, like, so Enid, you're right. Being at a healthy weight, see, and that was certainly something like my fear that nothing would change was totally off base. Like, I didn't realize how bad I was feeling until I started feeling good again. Like, I have so much more energy. I felt years and years younger. Like, I just feel good. I feel positive. I put myself out there more. I learned a whole lot of other things. I started pursuing interests and stuff that I had kind of just let fall by the wayside. There was so many good things about losing weight. Yeah, and it's a lifestyle, not a diet. Like, figuring out your lifestyle. What kind of lifestyle can you adopt? Not a diet. Yeah. Get rid of your fat clothes. Excellent tip. So good. So Christina, you said, how do you balance taking the long view and taking it 1 pound at a time? You're struggling with that. Okay. That's a great question. So taking the long view, I think, is very helpful when it comes to just realizing a pound at a time. Like, so in other words, if you continue just focusing on a pound at a time, like a pound a week or a pound every 2 weeks of loss, or even less, like even like right now, I'm at an even like I don't know, a third of a pound a week. If I continue to just say, if I just keep focusing on these little goals, in the long run, this is going to be a good thing. Okay, so like when you say a pound at a time, right? Like if you say, I've got 50 pounds to lose, and you say a pound a week, okay, you have to think in a term of a year, okay? It's a year before you're going to hit that goal. But if you just focus on being consistent and focusing on that next pound, when you look up a year from now, you're going to be down 50 pounds. Does that make sense? I hope that helps. Oh, Michelle, welcome. You got the kids in bed. Oh man, that is not fun. I've never had to deal with that. I hope, yeah, that sounds like a tough week, so I'm glad you're here. So let's see, Enid, you visualize what your life will be like 1 year and make permanent decisions based on being thinner. Yeah, you're getting an expensive parka that's not going to fit you if you gain weight. That's such a good idea. Like buying clothes that fit your body as you get down into that. That is so key. Like, if you keep your fat clothes, like, it's way too easy to get back into those fat pants. Like, the only thing that I've kept is right now I've got this big like hooded sweatshirt, and I'm only keeping it because it's cold here and I will freeze to death otherwise. I need to just go to the store and buy myself a sweatshirt. But it is true, like the only thing I like about wearing that big thing is to realize, like, it used to be skin tight on me and now it's huge. So and also visualizing, that is such a good tip too, Enid. Like, so just thinking about what will your life be like if you continue to do these things, like a year from now, what is that going to look like? And that can be really positive too. Yeah, and Franco, I think that's a great point too. And with and you said 15 pounds. I gave myself a 5 pound like leeway. Like when I was maintaining, I said, okay, 5 pounds above what above my lowest weight. So I think I said to myself, okay, at 157, that's when I started maintaining. I said, okay, if I get to like 162 as a 7-day average, I need to start to like lose some weight back down on purpose. And I think the highest I got that year, I think I maybe got up to a 7-day average of 163 point something. I've been looking at all this, but recently, but anyway, so that giving yourself a little leeway within the maintenance, I think really helps too. Um, yeah, yeah. So Enid, yeah, 47 hour, like 48-hour fast, and people even longer ones. I mean, I have not done any yet. I really am gonna do the 5-day fast one just for cancer prevention purposes that I've read about. I don't know if it actually does. But there's some interesting stuff that happens with longer fasting. And, when you look at it and when you really start to think about different cultures, their eating patterns and stuff, we have not always eaten this way, and people are fine. And I mean, and there are humans out there who are, going several days without food, and they're fine. I think Dr. Fung mentioned the Aborigines, which I thought I need to look further into that. Like, what is their normal eating patterns like? But like there are times where they don't have food for days, and they're not just dropping dead because of it. But yeah. Well, the thing, and the reason I chose 5 pounds and 5 to 7, I think is fine. Like, when I think of 10 pounds, to me that was like, whew, that's kind of like a lot. When I think about a pound a week, I think, man, that would take like 2.5 months to get that off if everything goes smoothly. So to me, I thought 5 pounds, that's like within a month or so you're going to be back. So, but it's certainly like one of those things you can decide for yourself. Yeah, well, you've been sick, Enid, so so that's fine. Let's see, you were down to 178. You started out at 220. Yeah. That's yeah, I hate that you got a cold right now. Yeah, and see, and that's another thing, nausea. So are you saying, I think you're saying like right now you're yeah, because when you're sick, it can throw fasting and everything kind of out the window. So I think just listening to your body right now is so important. Uh, and yeah, and Franco, I agree. OMAD to me is like, if I just did OMAD for the rest of my life, I think I could totally do that. Like, especially the way I do it with like cheat day on Sunday. It's like, I mean, it just feels like nothing to me. Um, so Enid, you're saying keto is in your tool belt, but it's not sustainable. Yeah, and I had that like, it could just be a tool, right? And I think I think that's great, that you're using it as such, and I think it is good to have a healthy, like, if it's not like sustainable, just to be aware of that and say, okay, this isn't something I'm going to do for the rest of my life, because some people get it in their head that it's like, this is it, even though they maybe know that it's not really sustainable. And then what are you going to do? Like, I think just having a plan is the main thing. But uh, let's see. So, Michelle, you said your biggest fear is not succeeding with your weight loss journey, especially because I feel like more people know I'm trying to lose weight this time. My whole family is curious and watching me to see. So, yeah, that is tough. Especially, first of all, though, your family loves you and they want you to succeed. But I understand that fear. I was in Florida, okay, so my family is in my side of the family is in Georgia, and my husband's side of the family is in Florida, and I lost the weight when we were living in Florida, and I felt like that was like to my advantage because I just felt like people weren't paying as much attention. Again, spotlight syndrome makes you think everybody's just focused on you and like they're just obsessed with you, right? But really, it's not true. I heard this quote one time. I think I talked about it in a different video, but it was, your best friend cares more about a hangnail that they have right now than they do about something horrible that you're going through in your life. Like, if you think about your day and how much you've thought about other people, right? And just in your head, like, think about, what are the things that you think about most? It's probably yourself. I mean, it's just a human thing. Like, that's what I think about most often. What am I thinking about? Myself, like the things that I'm going through, like, it's just, we think other people are just thinking about it all the time. And a lot of times it's just not true. Like, even my sister, who like I figured she was probably obsessed with I don't know why, but I thought she was probably like always thinking, man, Kayla's really put on the weight or something. But after I lost the weight, she told me like, oh, we were looking at pictures of you like back, like in 2014, and we really did not realize at the time how much weight that you had to lose, basically. That, I mean, she said it in a much more flattering way than that, but like the point is, people just aren't they're not thinking about it. So don't worry, there's not a spotlight and you're not in it. You're just doing your own thing. And I that is tough. That's tough when you feel like there's that pressure there, but instead just try to remember they're probably not thinking about it. They're probably really not. Let's see. Oh, hey, and that's good, Enid, that she didn't freak out about what you're doing. Some people, right? It's judgy pants, yeah. Uh, yeah, very good. Yeah, it's so true, though. Like, feast or famine, luck of the draw, and you just they went with it, right? They didn't just keel over. Okay, yeah, and Franco, you're right. There are other benefits, and I feel like that can keep people, like if you can tell people that, if that's the thing you're worried about, as people are judging you for intermittent fasting, you can talk about the benefits, and then also focusing on those benefits for your own self. Like if the scale's not moving as fast as you want it to, also think about how you're feeling and stuff, if you're feeling good with intermittent fasting. Oh, Michelle, you know what, you're stuck at 202. I got stuck. I'm writing my book, and I was looking at my weights because I was trying to really remember about 2015, and so here's how it went for me. I weighed myself in February 20th, right, and I was 222. I lost 20 pounds by July. Okay, it was basically right at a pound a week. So it was 5, yeah. Like by the end of July, I was down 20 pounds, and that's when I just like completely plateaued. And I plateaued. I was still at 202 by the beginning of 2016. So from July all the way through to January. So it was a very long, horrible plateau. It was because, I mean, I can tell you why I was plateauing, but so what happened to me, I'll go ahead and share, is, so when I lost 20 pounds, I was so frustrated that I wasn't losing faster. Now, when I look back, I'm like, what were you doing, right? But to me, it was like, no, I'm supposed to be losing like 5 pounds a week, so this is crap, basically. And so I started driving myself crazy, trying to figure out macros and eat, like, I was counting calories, I was weighing, measuring my food. I drove myself absolutely crazy. And then because that wasn't working, like I wasn't moving the needle, then I just started, like, I would say I'm not intermittent fasting anymore, so I'd quit that, and then I'd start to gain weight, so I'd go back on it, and then I would, I was just not being consistent, basically. I was getting in way too big of a hurry. So let's see, Michelle, you said, and you're right, I'm also in Florida. Yeah, so yeah, and see, they're only seeing you every an hour, so they see each other every week. Okay, and trying to keep it in perspective, and it is, look, I'll say this, some family members are going to be more obsessed with weight than other ones, like they just are, and I'm not going to name that, but I have some family members who seem almost obsessed with it, and it was very much to my advantage that I was not around that for that period of time when I was losing weight, I think, because I feel like I would have always felt like whatever progress I was making wasn't good enough, but just being focused on yourself, and just, it's kind of, there's a phrase that says, what you think of me is none of my business, or something like that. And that one's one I'm trying to adopt, is like, like, really, the most important thing is, how are you feeling? How are you doing with your own goals? And, it's really not their business. And it's not your business what they think of you. But, let's see. So, Franco, you said, I'm 21 pounds from the top end of my healthy weight range that I chose, and I'm afraid to make the transition in keeping it off. Michelle, I'm glad you like the hangnail thing. Yeah, and Franco, I think if you just don't be afraid of the transition. I would like, and that is one reason why I went ahead. Like, when I got down to 157, I was still a few pounds overweight. I was like 3 pounds overweight. Looking back, I'm like, why didn't you just lose more weight? Like, just 3 or 4 more pounds, and I would have been in a normal BMI range. But I didn't do that. Because the holidays were coming on, and I kind of thought, like, I'm happy here. Like, I just got down to that weight, and I was like, okay, I'm like in the 150s. I'm happy, and I felt good. And so, and I was still nervous about maintaining. I really thought, like, oh, what's this going to be like? And that whole, like, from then to September 2017, so it was almost a year, it was just another time of experimentation. So again, keeping that kind of, like, keeping track of my weight was key. Like, I continued to weigh every day. I kept track of my 7-day average. I did not change that. I did experiment with eating, at different times during the day. Like, I would eat, 2 meals a day. I experimented with just saying, like, I'll have breakfast and lunch, or I'll have lunch and supper, or I'll have lunch and supper and snacks, or I'll just open my window at 4 o'clock and then I'll just eat till whenever. And all those things worked. I even experimented with not walking 6 miles a day. I added that back in because I just noticed my mood is so good when I walk 6 miles every day. I stay in a very positive frame of mind. So I kept the walking, but it was freeing too, because I was like, wow, I can really be loose with this. I can really play loose and still keep the weight off. So it was actually very freeing and empowering too, to know that, like, wow, this is, like, really easy. Let's see, Lisa, you said, curious to know if you've done any 48s or 72s. I have not. I have been so tempted. Actually, a couple of months ago, I told myself, okay, I'm going to do a 5-day fast, and I'm not going to tell anybody, on the YouTube channel. And I didn't do it. We were traveling that day. Like, it was in the RV and stuff, or I was driving the car, and I was gonna be off coffee, and I was trying not to take Tylenol, and I just said, forget this. I'm gonna take Tylenol. I'm gonna drink coffee. I'm not gonna do a 5-day fast until we're, like, sitting in one place for a week, and I can do it. And I've hesitated to do a longer fast until, like, my plan right now, I really want to probably get down to 135. I feel like that's where I'm pretty happy. I mean, right now I'm really happy. It's really actually kind of hard for me to know when to stop. And maybe I don't even know. Maybe I don't even have to decide that. I think at 135 though, I'm going to say, okay, now I'm going in to do some different experiments, like with more extended fasts and stuff like that. And see, because the 5-day fast that I heard about from Dominic D'Agostino, which is somebody I heard about on Tim Ferriss's podcast, he was talking about all the cancer prevention possibilities from it. Not to say that you should do a 5-day fast. No one should, probably. It's horrible and it'll kill you. But I'm not a doctor, so don't take anything I do as medical advice. But it's curious, like, it's a very interesting thing to me of, if you fast, like, once your body gets into this a certain period of time, it's basically regenerating and stuff. It's very interesting, and I'm curious to see what that would be like. I don't know. We'll see. But 48s are very interesting. That is a tool a lot of people use to kind of get a plateau I've heard people have said they've had success with like breaking a plateau. Like if they're on OMAD and then they're plateauing, they just say, okay, do a 48, and then they drop weight. So and then my brother-in-law Roger, he's doing 48s pretty frequently. That's mainly how he does this. Is like he just kind of eats and stuff, and then he'll do a 48-hour fast, and he drops weight. So, yeah. Let's see. So. Christina, can you recall how long it took for you not to eat as many sweets? I know you don't restrict them at all, but you said you don't crave them as much now. I'm still wanting them a ton. Okay, right. For me, and I know this sounds so backwards, but I really think the key was to eat exactly what I wanted and as much as I wanted, and just to give myself that, like, I know it sounds backwards. I know it's like, no, you should just allow yourself in moderation. What worked for me was to say, whenever I crave that thing, I give myself that thing. And I don't say, okay, now be good and have one. It's like, here's a box of donuts. Like, how many do you want? You can eat as many as you want, and no guilt is allowed. And doing that over time. So, okay, so 2016 is really when I got to that like mindset, because before 2016 I was doing intermittent fasting, but I wasn't just, willy-nilly like saying whatever I want. My diet was never great. I would say, like, I was never really super strict one way or the other. I think probably when I was counting calories, I was probably the most strict with like trying to hit macros and stuff like that. It drove me crazy. But so in 2016, okay, I'm trying to think, because in 2015 I had trained myself to not drink sugary drinks, because I wanted to be able to have different kinds of drinks in my fasting window with like no guilt. And so I got to where I could drink unsweetened tea and just cream in my coffee, like half and half in my coffee. And so in 2016, though, when I really started to say, eat whatever you want, eat however much you want, when did I start to, I'm trying to think. It was such a gradual thing. It was a very, very gradual thing. It was like, it used to be cheat day was like, wow, I'm going to just eat all day. And then, it just became a thing of like, oh, well, yeah, I'll have the pancake breakfast and I'll eat, the things. But it was just like less of a thing. And I still, I love sweet stuff still. It was just a very, very gradual thing. It was a very gradual process of like, they did almost immediately stop, or they started to lose their luster. Like when I really said, you can have that chocolate cake, it's on your plan, it's in your eating window right now, you can have that chocolate cake. It was like, oh, I can have it, like however much I want. Yeah, sure, go ahead, eat whatever you want. And then it'd just be like, okay, I'll eat all I want, and I'd eat like a piece, and I'd be like, oh, I'm done. It's just kind of a weird thing. It's so, I think, so much a mind game. And to me, what worked for me was to really just say as much as you want, and really be on it. Like you can't say as much as you want and then beat the crap, like beat yourself up afterwards and say, oh, I can't believe you had 3 pieces of cake. Like if you choose to eat 3 pieces of cake, it's got to be like, okay, you ate that during your eating window and you were on plan, so don't feel bad about it. Yeah, I know it sounds backwards, I know, but I would just, what I did when I was wanting them, I just ate them. But let's see. Yeah, okay, so you got a wedding to go to. That's good that you're proud of yourself too. Just learning how to be proud of yourself and just stand on that and really not worry. It's so hard though, right? Like, it's like in the beginning of the journey, you're so wanting the praise. It's like, please just tell me congratulations for that 5 pounds that I took forever to lose. And then by the time you're losing, 30, 40, 50 pounds down, people are like, oh, that's awesome. And you're like, I don't really need your congratulations. I'm happy that you're happy for me, but you don't need it like that. I don't know. That's my thing. Let's see. Crafty. Oh, Enid, you're so funny. Um, when you're consistent with OMAD, I have no real cravings. I tell myself I can have whatever I want. Uh, yeah, and see, and that is like I do the same thing. Like anything I crave, I try to just put it in my OMAD, and sometimes that is weird, but I do what I can to work it in. But a lot of times you're right. Like that thing that I craved, I'll just forget about it, and then I'll be like, oh, well, I guess I didn't really care about it. Uh, Deborah, you asked how long does it take to walk 6 miles? It takes me about 2 hours, 3 miles an hour. I walk pretty slow. Sometimes it's a little bit more. I just a little over 2 hours. I also don't necessarily do it all at once. Lately, I do because we're full-time RVers now. But in the beginning, I would do house walking, which was just I would walk around in my house and I would do 6 miles in my house, and that a lot of times I would break up. I would do like 15 minutes here, 30 minutes there, or I'd walk around watching TV or watching Netflix or Amazon on my phone. So okay, so you were omad'ing until the kids went back to school. Now you keep sneaking bites of the dinner you make them. I'm not hungry for it, and okay, so I'm not hungry for it because you're going out for lunch daily. So how do you get over it? So, okay, so Allison, are you omad'ing? But you're not trying to omad right now, right? Because you're going to lunch. So, okay, so tell me what your window is then, because it sounds like to me if you opened up your window, then it should be fine to take the bites of the dinner. But maybe you're just saying you're only eating lunch. So let me know what you're doing, and I'll try to help you. Oh, good night, Franco. Let's see, Christina, Kayla. Me being on day 6, I'm wondering how long did it take you to notice that this is working? Okay. That's such a great question because I had to look at all this so recently, this morning actually. Okay, so when I went in January of 2016, when I said, okay, here's my plan, here's what I'm doing. I'm going to run this as a 6-week experiment. I'm going to do, and at this point I wasn't at OMAD, I was at probably a 16-8. I was doing a 16-8 and with an eye towards pushing my window out later and later. When I started doing that consistently, so 6 days a week, intermittent fasting, cheat day on Sunday, walking 6 miles a day, I started losing a pound a week right off the bat. And that was after a huge plateau for 5 months or so. So when I went to OMAD, I basically, there wasn't a huge difference to me. That I noted, like when I look back at the numbers, there wasn't a big jump in numbers. There was initially, like with when I went from say like a 24 to OMAD, that particular week I dropped 6 or 7 pounds, but then the weight kind of slowed down. The weight loss slowed down for several weeks after that, so I almost kind of plateaued after I went to OMAD, which I didn't even realize. But that initial drop was really what made me stay at OMAD, and it felt so easy, and I really thought, man, I really like the way this is. Like if I could just lose weight and it would be healthy and everything, I'll just do this. So because I like simplifying my life. So Christina, so basically it took me 6 weeks to see that the plan was working, though. I mean, because even on a week to week basis, my weight can fluctuate still. But when I looked back 6 weeks later, I was like, oh wow, I've lost. I mean, I think at that point I'd lost like 7 pounds. So it was a little over a pound a week that I lost, and that was the average that I lost too. So little over a pound a week from January 2016 to November. So. But hormonal fluctuations and everything, I don't like to only wait like a week or even 2 weeks. I say 6 weeks to 2 months. I know that's not the answer you want to hear, but I would focus more on consistency though. If you're not able to be consistent on a plan, then it's very hard to tell that the plan is working really. You know what I mean? So instead of going OMAD and being inconsistent, I think it's a better option to do a 16-8 but be super consistent and see how your results are. So, hope that makes sense. Okay, so Allison, lunch is your OMAD. Okay. So, okay. So, if lunch is your OMAD, well, okay. You said you're taking bites of stuff. So, for my first question is, are you gaining at all, or are you still losing? How long have the kids been back in school? I don't think very long, right? So, I'm pretty laid back, right? So, I would say if you're just taking bites of stuff, like, to taste, because I do that. I mean, like if I'm sitting there and I'm making dinner for the night and it's maybe something that has to cook all day, I'm going to take a bite to check the seasoning. So I'm always like, whatever works. So if you find that you can take bites of the thing that you're making for dinner, I think the thing that usually happens with a lot of people is once you start taking bites, then you start just eating, right? Like it's like, okay, now I feel hungry, because that is the thing. Like our bodies, once you start the act of like eating, it can be very hard to stop. So maybe that's what's happening. I don't know. Let me know if that's kind of what's happening to you. Let's see, Christina. When I rarely felt hunger during my let's see. So let's see. I don't know. I think I maybe missed something. Maybe I can look at. Sometimes the YouTube chat doesn't show all. There we go. So, there we go. So your goal, okay, so Christina, I wish I knew how to pronounce your last name. I'll just say Christina B. My goal is to stop eating any of my OMAD in bed. I'm single and live alone, so I've gotten into a bad habit of that and watching TV while I eat. And that is, it's almost a rule with me to not eat while we're, or to not watch TV while I'm eating. So how that looks for me is supper. We have family supper. We sit down as a family to our meal. We have no devices at the table. We do not turn on the television, anything like that. We don't watch a whole lot of television anyway, but we sit down and we don't watch TV, because eating is very easy to overeat when you're watching TV. I have found, for me at least, I just kind of will sit there mindlessly shoveling in the food, and then when I kind of come to my senses, I'm like, wow, I'm miserable. So I try not to do that, but I do. My husband and I, Friday nights, date night, we generally get takeout and we bring it back here and we watch that TV right there and we eat the food. So I don't have a hard and fast rule. And then lately we've been eating popcorn, but that's that's part of my code. If he asks me to eat popcorn with him, I do it. Let's see. So. Okay, yeah, if you take bites, then when you're making your food, yeah, you can't stop. Michelle. Oh, man. I think we've all done stuff like that, so. Yeah, it's just really hard to stop, so. So that's a tough one. You could, instead of doing OMAD, well, a couple of things here. One thing would be you can just switch your OMAD back to supper. And not do lunch. But I'm assuming that it's just nice to have lunch with your husband. You could just do 2 meals a day. Open up your window when your husband, when you and your husband have lunch, and then have supper, with your family. And then you might have success. Like I was having pretty good success doing that kind of thing, like a 16-8, 18-6. I just found OMAD really simplified my life, and I like that. So, oh yeah, see, crave. Oh, so Enid, yeah, my husband is a snacker. It's like every time I look up, the man's eating. And like today, it's like every time I looked over at him, he's like either eating a peanut butter sandwich or he's got a spoonful of peanut butter, or, but it doesn't bother me anymore. But I think it used to more than it does now. I'm so used to fasting. It's like, it just doesn't bother me. I mean, so there are times of the month that can be like, I feel more hunger, so it can be a bit more tempting. But yeah, and that's so true. Like when you got the stretchy pants on, and then you really can't tell when you're full. But yeah, standing up, that's actually something I started to do, and I just now remembered that. Like I had a problem understanding when I was full. Like I had this like when I was overweight, right? I would just eat until I was absolutely miserable. And so one of the things that I started doing when I was intermittent fasting was I started telling myself, okay, you can eat more. Like so I didn't want to end up miserable. So I said, okay, maybe what I can try is eating a plate full of food and then stand up and like see how I feel. And so doing that over time really helped me to understand like, oh, I am full right now. Like it just took the act of standing up. I don't know. It's kind of a weird thing. Oh, are we almost? Oh, we are almost out of time. I'm sorry, you guys. Man, this hour has flown by. We had a good conversation, I feel like. So thank you guys for joining me. I wanted to see if yeah, Darlene, your husband's a snacker too. Yeah, and Enid, yeah, your husband's a runner, and yeah, my husband, he's never ever had to worry about his weight at all. He's just got an excellent metabolism. That's what I say. But thank you guys for joining me. I hope it was helpful. I hope you got something out of it. I know I did. I got a lot out of this. So I will be back again next week. If you haven't joined the Facebook group, please be sure to do that. We're having a lot of fun over there, a lot of really good support. It's a good group. It's like if you need some encouragement and support over there, it's a place to be. Okay, so I think we are almost out of time. Yeah, thanks, Darlene, for joining us. This is always so much fun hanging out with you guys. And I guess I will. Oh, yeah, so distracting yourself, so key, right? Just staying busy in some form or fashion, like keeping your hands busy too, right? Like that way you're not tempted to eat. Like you can't, I would imagine you can't knit and eat at the same time, right? Like it's really, really hard to do that. And I'm sure you will get right back in the saddle. Take care of yourself. Lots of self-care, lots of self-love, and all that stuff. Be kind to yourself, and you'll recover a lot quicker, I think, than if you try to push it too hard. So, right. So, anyway, thank you guys for joining me. Oh, and you can also check out the interviews. I will be posting those throughout, just whenever we can do them. Getting chocolate on your yarn. So funny. And if anyone is in the Utah area or Southern California, let me know. Maybe we can grab coffee or something. I think that's where we're heading, is Southern California, but eventually, I don't know. It really depends on the weather, I think. So anyway, again, thank you guys very much for joining me, and I will see you guys later.